out and talk about the elections that just happened in the UK and France, and talk about whether or if this will affect the American elections or in North Carolina, if you can imagine. So in Britain on July 4th, it was pretty much as we expected. The left-wing Labour Party had a solid win, knocking the Conservatives out of power after 14 years. Very disappointing, to say the least. Now, over in France on Sunday, things really took a twist. So the Conservative National Party, and that's led by Marie Le Pen, they were predicted to win. They did not win. And in fact, a left-wing coalition called the New Popular Front, ranging from literally communists to literally criminals, snagged more seats than they ever had. So here's how they did it. They teamed up with President Macron's middle of the left, let's just say, Renaissance Party. They're not to the right. They're not centrist. They're really what we would call the left. So teamed up with Macron and try to snag some seats. It'd be like in America, if JFK had a pretty robust campaign team, it would be as if he teamed up with Biden to pick up a few states to give Biden the overall electoral win in the presidency, for instance. So they kind of teamed up. So now pundits are saying that a left-wing sweep in both countries, that's what happened. And it's partially true. And I'm not soft-pedaling it. It's disappointing. But we really can't fit these elections into any ideological box. And there's really not a narrative for how it might affect the American elections come November. And here's why. Unlike the U.S., these two countries have more than one party, and they're fairly robust. And that gives room for a lot of electoral chess, if you will. So take the UK, for instance. They've got Labour, and the Communist Party, basically. And they tagged up to take on the Tories and Nigel Farage's Reform Party. And they won. I mean, they did this gamesmanship. They won within the system. Meanwhile, over in France, they've got another two-stage voting deal, stage 1 and 2. Same thing happened, and it's all about minimizing the vote splintering. So I think the big takeaway, if we're to look at anything, is this. Elections are about who plays the game smarter within the rules and the system they have. And here, the center-left and communists took out conservatives. It's not great. Moreover, I think incumbents are going to struggle getting reelected when there are things like high crime. There's a terrible economy. The job issues are bad. And so that's really what we need to look at. Now, there are two things, critical things, that will affect elections downstream. They are immigration. I think we already know that, right? And education. Tonight, we're going to explore education and how the education system, K through 12, is being weaponized against families first, North Carolina and America. On Thursday night, we'll be digging more into mass immigration and how that is affecting electoral politics in America, and more importantly, what we need to do to stop it. Good evening, Margo. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Did you have a good 4th?
I had a great 4th.
Yeah? Did you do anything fun? I hung out with the cousins, up here.
You did? How was the weather up there?
It was beautiful. We had rain the day after 4th of July, but it was beautiful.
We have really only had rain one day since the 4th, and it's been in Raleigh about 100 degrees roughly every day.
It's hot here. I would say it's been in the 90s. We haven't hit 100, but it's been pretty hot. Thank goodness, being in the mountains, you don't have the same humidity you do where you're at, but it's been hot.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Definitely time for a beach trip.
Time for a beach trip, and I got to water my own grass. I'm not happy.
Well, I don't have to do that.
That's good. That's really good. All right. So speaking of hot, we're talking about education. We're talking about how that can lead to the downfall of civilization. But before we do that, we cannot do this, what we're doing here, without you guys. We got to have you. We got to have your support. We got to have you sharing this. We've increased our viewership, but we're also increasing our Substack subscriptions, and they're free. I mean, what the hey?
Yeah.
They're free.
Just go read about it. If you can't see it, while we're doing it live, get out there and read about it. And then you can engage with us on X if you want to. If you want to reach out to me on TikTok, it's Margot NNC on TikTok. The goal is to save our state. And the best way to do it is to get involved. And you're working, we're working, but we want to get together and give you the highlights.
Well, I'm just going to tell all of you guys out there, you're not going to be my friend if you do not sign up for our free Substack. It's just not going to happen.
I'll still be your friend, but I'll hound you to death.
Okay, good. All right. Well, Margaret, you're not as finicky as I am. So
sales. Come on. I'm going to sell them on it.
That's right. Well, we do 3 original stories per week, in addition to giving you the highlights of the podcast. So it's not going to do us any good unless we have a platform. And our aim is to reach, as many people as we can, 100,000 middle of the road and conservative voters. We got to do it.
Even unaffiliated voters, if you want to get, if you want to see what one side's doing, give us a good look. I mean, some of the things we talk about are not partisan. And even if they are, if they're about children, I don't care what you think. The left on children is just not right.
Well, and they know it. And I think the one way that we can all come together is what I'm about to put up right here. So we're going to talk tonight. We're going to be bold. We're going to talk about there are things that are being prioritized in our school across North Carolina that even the left is coming out against. And it is prioritizing of race over results. What you were looking at, I got this from the DPI's website. This is historical data. Okay. When you look at the green line, I don't know if you guys can get a good look at this, but the green line is right the second from the top. That's the mean. That's all races. Okay. This is going to be kind of deaggregated a little bit, but this is all races. So when you look at all races, you're going to see right here, this little line that I'm pointing to there, that is in, let's see, that's in 2004. In 2004, 81% of all students were proficient. What you're looking at is 3rd and 8th grade. Were proficient in math and reading. This is math and reading, 3rd and 8th grade. Okay. Now, this is 2021. Only 16% of 3rd and 8th graders are proficient in math and reading. When we go to Black students, it is 5%. It's gone from 68% to 5%.
How does that happen without a couple things? What are teachers qualified to do if this is going on? What are they doing? And I think the other thing I would ask you about that is, how did we go so far when we have all this testing? Are they changing the test? What's going on?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. So when you look at the first drop off, it's right about here, right? Actually, right back here in 2004. That is when the feds really got their teeth into education with No Child Left Behind, or if you listen to Rush, No Child's Behind, Left Alone. Then you see the second drop off. North Carolina became one of the first states in 2011, 2012 to sign on to Common Core.
Oof. Well, there you go.
So the federalization of education certainly has done us in, but CRT and DEI has been federalized as well. And now we're seeing a precipitous drop off because of that. So there are different theories. You just asked a great question. Why?
Yeah.
Okay. The first thing that comes to mind, and by the way, no one has a secret sauce here. The first thing that comes to our head is access, right? Quality access to a high level education. That's why school choice is so good. But the practitioners of DEI believe that teachers are racist and it's their fault. Now, I know that you're not going to believe that, audience, because it's such a bold claim and it's absurd, but I want you to hear this right from the mouth of a guy named Mo Green, who is a DEI aficionado, one of the worst practitioners of it, in fact. He is at the 2017 Duke University BLM in Education Conference. Let's listen, shall we, to what he has to say.
Come into these situations with a bias against certain groups of people. I'm not calling anyone a racist. Far from it, because all of us come in with biases. But the reality is those biases then play out in a systematic way that allows for the results that we see in our schools. And so these marvelous, intelligent students are almost from before they even walk in the door, are seen as less than and not capable of. And then we proceed as adults to treat them that way. And so if we're going to do something about having more students meet those standards, then I think it's going to be about the adults and what we do to try.
Okay, so does that explain it?
I mean, what he's basically saying is profile you before you get in the door. That's what he said.
He says that teachers profile students before they get in the door. Now, I'm not saying that there are not racists who happen to be teachers, but the notion that the system, and you heard him say systemically racist, is preposterous. So he is a DEI practitioner of the highest magnitude and order. And we're going to talk about a couple of others that the results have been abysmal. And
Let me just stop for 1 second and just let me say this. I'm not calling you racist, but I mean, that says it all.
Right. And we wonder why we're losing good teachers. We wonder why we're struggling to keep teachers when DEI practitioners, and we're going to discuss it tonight, are making the issue of discipline. They're making that, a DEI issue. They're saying it's unfair to discipline. So Mo Green is the guy I just showed you. And just look at him.
So do you know a lot about him? I mean, I don't know that much. I know he's an attorney by trade. What do you know about him?
Well, what I do know is this. He spent some time in Greensboro as a superintendent there. But that was a long time ago. That was 7 years ago. He spent the last 6 years as the CEO or the director of Z. Smith Reynolds. It is the George Soros Open Society of the South. They funded the worst pogroms of Jew hatred that anyone has ever seen, really terrorized my community for 7 years while he was leading the organization. He has directly funded, while he was at Z. Smith Reynolds, riots that have injured over 35 police officers. Even a young innocent guy was killed at one of these BLM Charlotte uprisings. So funded literal criminals, wants to defund the police.
He's an anti-Semitic. He's a defund the policer.
Mm-hmm.
He puts money to Antifa. That's what I heard you just say, basically.
Mm-hmm. And BLM. That's correct. While he directed money there, yes. In addition, he directs some of the most virulent teacher trainings, and I'll show you about that a little bit later in the program. The most virulently hateful teacher trainings offered in the state of North Carolina. And here's another one. We also talked about immigration influencing elections and the character of the country. They fund the NGOs that bring in copious amounts of illegals and hide them from ICE and legally defend them when they are found to have broken the law.
You mean newcomers? Are you talking about the newcomers?
You know I am.
It's funny you should bring that up. I'm sure we're going to talk about that a lot in this discussion.
Everything that plagues North Carolina. In fact, Mo Green, while he was executive director of Z. Smith Reynolds, has been at war with families and the people of North Carolina. And now he wants to run K through 12 schools. And I'm telling you what, that is a lethal proposition.
It is because we're already in the hole, thanks to Catherine Truitt. She basically succumbed to every whim that the left wanted in schools and even hired Democratic operatives on her staff.
Yeah.
So this is just a continuation plus some.
Well, the difference here is that, Mo Green is very well connected. So every anti-American, Jew hater, CRT practitioner, they owe him because through Z. Smith Reynolds, he's been funding them. So he's going to bring them right on in, and that is who is going to be directing the education here in North Carolina.
That's really unbelievable where we're at right now. And it's such a drastic choice. You got Michelle Morrow, Christian mom, homeschooler, bilingual, opens missionary orphanages in Mexico. And then you got this radical from New York. He's not even from North Carolina, as I understand it, who's done a lot of damage.
He's been at war with North Carolina for the last 6 years. So activists out there, people out there, do not let him get away with saying he is an experienced administrator of schools. That was 7 years ago. Let's talk about what you've been up to for the last 7 years. You've been at war with families. You've been at war with taxpayers. You've been at war with Jews. Now, that's a damn fact.
Well,
and the other police.
One thing I did notice, because I did look into that foundation you talked about, almost no one that works there is from North Carolina, first of all. Second, they're all from like New York, Colorado, New Jersey, Rhode Island. And the other thing I noticed is it's mostly women. It's almost the majority women. And all of them have something to say about equity and inclusion and all the buzzwords on the left.
Correct. Yeah. And that's fine. But now that we know what the buzzwords mean, and now that we have put them into play, and now that we understand, all the havoc that this has wreaked in the lives of families here in North Carolina, we know to push back. So this looks, pleasant. We're looking at the homepage. Nice enough. Oh, we're wonderful. Here's our framework, all for NC. State level systemic change strategy. Ding, ding. They want to change every aspect of life here in North Carolina. They don't like our state. They don't like our country. It's as simple as that.
Such irony in the fact that the Reynolds family from Winston-Salem are, they're like historical, literally would give that kind of foundation their time and money. Just so sad.
Well, it's typical, when a foundation director dies, the old generation, the new generation comes along, and they bring along with it white guilt.
Well, that's true. Very true.
So let's bring on this story. Again, if you are getting NC Political Tea and you're signed up to the Substack, you know what's up. So this is Dr. Charles Faust. Listen, good looking man. I'm not going to lie. Great looking family, right? He came in 2020 to, take over, to lead the top, I think it's the number 12 largest school system in North Carolina, and first Black man ever hired to be superintendent at New Hanover County Schools.
And he made a mess of it. I can honestly say that, having you and I both did a lot of exposés on this gentleman and what has happened in that school district. And, I think the grassroots really came together for both of us, and we worked together to expose some of the things he's done. But he's absolutely divided that county's school district. It's really very sad.
Well, he has. He has not been honest when he wanted to make the newcomer school. In fact, just recap what we did with the newcomer school and how we shut that down.
Well, it was kind of interesting. I got a call out of the blue. One of the good things about being in the grassroots and having a decent sized platform is people come to you and ask you to help them. And of course, if it has to do with schools, I'm in it. So I got a call from someone down there in the school system who said, hey, look, this is an issue. This guy has sent an email to the parents in the school, Moultrie School, that not to the school board, by the way. The school board had no idea. Neither did the county commissioners. And it was the principal that did it with his blessing, that they were going to have to move their children out of the school within 6 weeks so that they could move this school into what they were terming a newcomer school, which was truthfully a facility for illegal immigrants and their families on the taxpayer dime.
Right. And this was a custom school for students that struggled in school. So, the students were thriving. They were doing well. This was unfairly taken out. But we're going to bring Natasha Tew on in a second from New Hanover. She's running for school board. She's going to tell us all about what happened. But part of the reason that this firing occurred on July 2nd with the board unanimously, the people there voting, one of the reasons this happened was reportedly Dr. Faust had sent a memo reportedly saying that you will not punish, I'm paraphrasing, Black students even if they misbehave.
Well, I just want to say, this is the reason I know Natasha. She literally called me as a stranger and asked me if I could help her. And we brainstormed some ideas. And one of the ideas that came out of that is, because she works with Moms for Liberty, I said, listen, you need to call the headquarters and you need to get yourself on Bannon. You're in the thick of it. They need to know you're in the thick of it and you're fighting for it. And literally, while she was on air with him, they retracted the offer to to take the school away. So I love Natasha. She's awesome.
Yeah, we play in the court of public opinion, and it really does move mountains. So I'm going to play a video just so you can see the type of guy that Dr. Charles Faust was, etc.
All Americans are created equal. You know, that's our Constitution. It's quoting our Constitution.
The Constitution was not written for me, Miss. I don't want us to get into this, but the Constitution was not written with me in mind. For me as a Black male, the Constitution and all of those people that were sitting around the table did not represent me.
Wow.
So do we see a theme here? Mo Green and Charles Faust, who also taught in the Greensboro County School District.
I'm not surprised to hear that. And I'll tell you why, because most people don't realize that the newcomer centralization is at UNCG. There's actually a newcomer facility there where they get together and talk about how to bring in and infest North Carolina with newcomers.
So when we're talking about voting and we're talking about how is France now, how did the far left, I'm talking about far left, buddy. I'm not talking about anything like nothing you've ever seen. How does that happen? Well, it happens immigration and it happens education. And so it should come as no shock that those two things are being done in tandem. And there are key figures who are doing this. Now, in Charlotte, 2 years ago, this is an interesting story. This superintendent named Ernest Winston was also dismissed, in part because he brought this Ibrahim Kendi to the premier CRT practitioner. Okay, he thought it'd be a great idea to bring him in to teach about how teachers are being white supremacists. And he was shit-canned by actually a Democrat school board who, after sexual assaults had been ignored, bringing guns to school. In fact, no discipline. So it's the same theme. Do not discipline students, because doing so would disproportionately Blacks. But a lot of the victims of these sexual assaults and violence were also Black students.
Yeah, I think even left-leaning people don't see this as a win for their children.
How do you mean?
Well, they're not policing the crime in schools, because there is crime. And we know that teachers are leaving because of crime. And that doesn't sit well with any parent. I don't care if you're on the left, on the right, in the middle. It doesn't sit well. Ignoring crime because of race, that's another reason. It doesn't matter. If you're it doesn't matter what color you are. When you're a victim of crime, that changes your perspective.
It does. It does. And it actually shortchanges all students when you have, no discipline, no order. But look, and this is why school shootings happen. This is why in West Palm Beach, or Fort Lauderdale, the school shooting happened, because they meaning the administrators, constantly ignored the signs of this guy, the shooter, being a problem. And because of Obama's federal policy, they felt like they would be sued if they looked into it. So now we're talking about two different superintendents in two different big school systems being fired for nearly the same reason.
Well, what's interesting that you didn't make the correlation of is Mo Green started out in Charlotte as a lawyer representing Greensboro schools. And then so did Dr. Faust, started out in Greensboro. I mean, the connection is there. You can see it. It's there.
Greensboro, Charlotte connection.
Well, just the connection all the way around with DEI and pushing this agenda out.
The same agenda. And I'll tell you this right now, these guys were fired. We don't need to bring in for 4 years over all K through 12 Mo Green, who we wouldn't be able to get rid of. That would be a disaster on par that we've never actually seen. By the way, he denies that there is a problem in schools. He thinks the schools are great. Everything's hunky-dory. Nothing to see, no problem whatsoever. And it's complete bunk, actually. This is the results academically from schools. And to say that we don't have a problem is whistling past the graveyard. So, you heard in the video, Mo Green talk about, well, we're just a bunch of racist teachers. We can't, guys, we can't go on this way. We're racist, right? And we need training. So this is Z. Smith Reynolds. This is when he was here. He left in 2023. So this is while he was there. They actually made this group, put this group on the map called Working to Extend Anti-Racist Education. In other words, we are. This is a $50,000 grant for 2 years, year-over-year grant that you're looking at. So there's the evidence that they did fund them. Now, let me show you what this group is all about, because this is what's coming if, God forbid, this radical is elected. So this is News and Observer. They're reporting, wow, Wake County Schools is being trained by We Are. So I'm going to call them. And they're talking about land acknowledgements. Let me tell you what that is. A land acknowledgement is basically America doesn't exist because we're on stolen land. It is the most anti-American thing ever. This is from their Twitter account. Now, this woman fancies herself as an expert on how white children develop identity. This is Rhonda Taylor Bullock. She runs We Are. Again, Mo Green's already funded this teacher training through C. Smith Reynolds.
And is she a certified teacher?
I don't know. She's probably has her doctorate in education, as many of these radicals do. But she's teaching teachers how to resist whiteness. And read what she's got on Twitter. This is what she says openly.
Oh, wow. This is the kind of stuff that creates dynamics in families. It's terrible.
And it creates violence.
Yeah.
It dehumanizes white people. But there's more. White women. White women is a problem.
Oh, that's a stupid statement in of itself. Choosing white supremacy is a self-interest. So if you're interested in learning about yourself, you're a white supremacist. It's like a catch-22. You can't win.
It gets better. Now, white men, they need to heal. They can't have a healthy racial identity and committed to causing harm.
It's interesting how this works, because if you go talk to people of color and you want to talk to them about their community in spaces specifically on X, I'm not allowed to really speak on that because I'm not of the color of them, but they can dictate to us what we feel or what we should do.
Oh, yeah. And they're the first ones to tell me what anti-Semitism is too, by the way. But read this cynical, nasty, disgusting quote. The first racial victim of the white community is its own child. Now, if you want to have teacher trainings that are that way, and our teachers in K through 12 in North Carolina who are programmed that way, then let Mo Green keep going. This is who he funds. This is who he represents. This is who he wants to do the teacher training. White kids need to shift that shame to humility and center the folks who are actually harmed.
How about kids just be kids and play in the sandbox?
But think about what it would be like, you guys, for anyone's child to be trapped in a school 8 hours a day with teachers who are expressing these views and who holds this level of hatred in their hearts.
And shaming, just literally shaming kids.
If it were being done to any other color, it would rightfully be called out. And for whatever reason, we have let it go on in Wake County schools and beyond. Again, hates the country. White men enjoy seeing Black people lynched. I mean, this is the extreme stuff that has been funded by Mo Green. Here's what she said when Claudine Gay was caught plagiarizing. It's because white people are triggered, of course.
Of course.
And, you know, this queer garbage. So this is the kind of garbage that Mo Green represents. It's the kind of garbage that rightfully in New Hanover and in Charlotte, Mecklenburg schools, they got rid of.
Well, you know, I think even the Democrat school boards are starting to bend on this. You know, I'm still really disappointed in the Republican school board in Davidson County, because they seem to just be wanting to hold on to their, ridiculousness. But it's really sad to see that, we can't come together and just work for the betterment of the children.
Right. Politics should be out of the school, period. Whether it's, you're in there teaching or we can't say anything because there's illegal aliens. We've got to stop that. And it is heartening to see that Democrats, like I said, in Charlotte, they said, look, our kids can't read. Crimes are being covered up. The guy brought in, a reason cited, the guy brought in CRT training and he's got to go. And they bounced him on his ass. I think that's a very good thing.
I think it's interesting. We didn't even really talk about Dr. Faust and what he did before he came to North Carolina, because, there's a whole Reddit thread on him being in a prior school district, I think in Texas and also in Kansas City. Yeah. But in I think it's Houston or Katy area, somewhere down there. He just went on vacation and never went back to work.
Yeah. In Kansas City, they hired him because, and actually he was the first superintendent, Margot, in 2 decades that had come from the outside. So he came in from Texas, didn't work his way up, and they hired him. And he came in, worked for 2 years. He said, y'all, I'm going on vacation. And he just bounced. Didn't come back, left him high and dry in COVID, in the middle of COVID.
And what's funny about that is, why would somebody not have done the research to ask that question? That's job abandonment. Like what happened there that you just left your job? And wouldn't that be considered a reason for termination?
Well, New Hanover schools interviewed 36 candidates for the job.
Wow.
36. Settled on this guy. It was during the height of Black Lives Matter. I don't know. They touted him as the first Black superintendent. So those are the facts. And now, ironically, he used the issue of race. My understanding is to get railroaded out of or rightfully railroaded out of having this position. So, the whole thing stinks to high heaven. So now let's move on to just the teachers union writ large, because the teachers union writ large is, and again, it's the same sort of thing. Here's a video that dropped over the weekend. The NEA, by the way, guys, is the National Teachers Union. NCAE is its subsidiary here in North Carolina. Watch this.
All the things our colleagues are depending on us to win all the things. Keep going, NEA. To preserve our democracy, we must win all the things. Delegates, we won't go back. We will keep going forward because we are the NEA. We are the NEA. We are the NEA. And that's what we do. NEA, we have to win.
Radical.
Do you think she's an activist by any chance?
It's clear that most people need to put your kids in homeschool school. Absolutely an activist.
Right. And so, they chide us about accusing them of indoctrination. Look at what we have been watching for the last 30 minutes on this show. Indoctrination after indoctrination. And that woman is an absolute lunatic.
She looks like a lunatic. I have to say, I thought I was watching somebody preach.
Yeah. It does look like that. But sadly, it's not. It's not. It's real. But again, this DEI stuff, it is great that, people are catching on. And in New Hanover, what happened? We're going to get a little bit more detail right now. Natasha Chu is with us. Hello, darling. How are you?
Hello.
Hey, Natasha, how are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. Recovering from a really long 4th of July weekend.
How's that race going here?
It's going well. It's going good. Everything's starting to pick up right now. I think with the recent Title IX rewrite and the lawsuit, the injunction that Moms for Liberty recently was awarded, we've got a little bit of momentum I didn't have before that. I think I feel good about it. I got to put in the work. There's no doubt about it. There's still a lot of people out there that aren't aware of the situation, but look what I'm able to help accomplish even before getting into office. And that the major thing is to get rid of our former Marxist superintendent, Dr. Faust.
Well, so tell me, we were talking before you got here on the show. It looks like, this might be the result of Dr. Faust's ousting. It may be linked to a memo suggesting Black students not be punished if they have done something that indeed meets the infraction level.
It was a written submission during the 2024 climate survey results that came out recently. And I'll quote it for you. I mentioned it in my recent school board call to audience. Forgive me just a second. It says, I thought I had it right here. Oh my goodness. My goodness, it pretty much calls out they do not want any students of color being having to suffer consequences of bad behavior. They don't want them expelled. They don't want them punished. They don't want anything really to happen to them because, and I wouldn't say it just stands at any student of color. I want to say, guys, I want to say it's any kind of violence. They want to keep those numbers down. They recognize that the videos that I've shared with you and on Twitter, they know that it's they don't want those getting out at all.
Well, and I think that quote also said they manipulate the numbers as well. So don't punish them and then let's manipulate the numbers on top of that.
Certainly. No, they don't want anything getting out at all. I'm sorry I don't have that quote.
Don't worry about it. It's on page 19. I've read it. You've read it.
I read it the other night. I've got my notes everywhere. If you could see my condo right now, it looks like I'm cramming for a college final.
Well, very good. I mean, there's a lot to cover, right? There's a lot to cover, but
expecting this, I'll be honest. I knew the climate survey, it was bad. There was almost 88% of our teachers responded and they replied to this and they gave their very honest opinions. Over 95% had directly to deal with the district leadership and how poor of a job that they have. I do have some of the stats they were talking about, and it's pretty sad. There was nothing really good about it. 60%, they don't feel like the district leadership communicates clearly and consistently with staff and the school administration. Almost 70% don't feel like the district leadership is even effective in fostering a positive culture or a positive work.
So, Natasha, I've got this quote up here. And I put in our story, in our Substack story, let me just read this. District leadership is a mess, this teacher says. Teachers feel no trust for anyone in central office. People that were respected quickly changed when Faust arrived. Supposed mistakes never get corrected because the misinformation serves the district better. I think that's what you're talking about. Here's another teacher. We were not a struggling district when Faust came, and he implemented processes specifically designed for academically struggling schools that hamstringed and stifled teacher autonomy and teachers being able to implement strategies for helping students that are directly in front of them.
Yep, that's what I'm hearing. I've actually met with a teacher today. Throughout this whole process, I've gotten teachers here and there, and they'll private message me saying, we don't feel we like what you're saying, we want to support you, but we don't feel comfortable, we live in fear of retaliation, which was
Right.
another point that came out in the survey. What I've learned also from that survey is that our school board members, that our teachers want to see more of them. They want to see district leadership, and they have it. And I've asked my school board members, like, well, can school board members go? Because I'm looking to be a school board member. Can we go visit these schools? Right? She's like, oh no, we have to clear it with central office. Yeah.
Well, Natasha, I'll say that there are certain school districts that parents cannot go and visit the classroom, and they have to get it cleared. And there's many school districts like that. Now they're using COVID as the lingering pretext for that. We all know that it's not that. And I believe Wake County, the county that I'm in, might be one of those counties.
Yeah, your county it's one of the most stubborn ones in North Carolina. I will say they are very committed to that, unfortunately, to the liberal cause.
Well, yeah, to the communist cause, really. So tell us, I mean, we've seen school boards like, Bladen County, Moore County, and New Hanover. We've seen the difference that having conservative school board members on the board, it makes. Tell us a couple things that the conservatives on this school board, in my mind, led by Melissa Mason, has done that you weren't able to do before conservatives got onto the board.
One was get rid of Faust, but that was a bipartisan, like a unilateral decision there. It was everybody agreed to it, but that was a big one. Opt-in for all choices in school. That's a recent policy that was passed. And back in May, that we were able to get a policy passed that restricted the displays in our classrooms and our schoolhouses. There's a lot of pushback from that. And I think a lot of
flags, right? I believe it's flags. And so
displays. Now, so this is what we spent 30 minutes on the other night, going over the definition of a display. This is how we waste time, and it's so frustrating in a school board meeting. What is the definition of a display? They latch on to something that they can make a big stink about. Oh, they're taking away our First Amendment. No, we're not. Your family photo's that's not a display.
Right. You know what we're talking about here, guys. We're talking about all of the BLM flags, all the transgender flags, etc. And again, most teachers, we all know this, most teachers want to fulfill their calling. The most older teachers, right? They've been there for 5 or 10 years, not the new ones coming out. They want to be able to teach, right? So we know that most teachers aren't engaged, but look, you get 10% of the teachers doing this crap, it overwhelms the system, and it really breaks down trust of families, does an enormous amount of damage to children.
Well, I think one funny part in that, Natasha, because I literally watched the whole thing, is you could see the person that is definitely a Democrat. I didn't even have to know. You just know she is, that was on the corner on the far end. And then the chairman, they were both talking about how they went to graduations and how great it was there wasn't no displays. But they couldn't come together on a definition before that. It was hilarious.
It's funny because the reason that policy was kind of put in as an emergency is there was actually a display at one of our graduations. And the principal was able to secure it quite quickly enough that it didn't become a spectacle. But it was at that point that one of our board members realized what the possibility was moving forward as graduation. We still had several other high school graduations ahead of us that she decided to move forward with that motion.
Well, we've all seen the pro-Hamas displays, and they're happening in high school. So, and that's actually ruined graduations, actually ruined them, pouring fake blood on steps, etc. And so, again, why do we need stupid laws? I want to tell you why. Democrats. That's why.
You're right. People that want to be activists in the classrooms is the reason I give to everyone, like, why do we have to have that? Because you have people in the classroom that want to use it as a platform to push their agenda. If everybody be professional, come and do your job and teach the children and not push your political beliefs on anyone or your sexual orientation on anyone, then perhaps we wouldn't have to have these rules. But you want to behave like itty bitty children that need rules and guardrails for everything. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, I
Well-
think people are ready to get back to basics.
We need to. When I was discussing with the teacher today, and what is so mind blowing is our graduation rate is almost 90%. Our proficiency rate is half of that.
Wow.
And he said, and I wrote it down as a quote. He was like, I bet, he goes, if our graduation rate was more accurate, more legit, it would be more in line with our proficiency rate.
Well, look at this. This is 3rd and 8th grade. And we're seeing, if you see the green line, according to this, and this is DPI data, 2021, 8.3 3rd and 8th graders, 8.3, okay, are proficient in math and reading. So how the hell do they get their scores up high enough to where we've got a alleged 90% graduation rate?
I learned a little something today. So they have to have graduation credits and a certain amount of credits to graduate, right? So
Yep.
when those seniors that are in jeopardy of not graduating, they allow them to enroll in a level 1 class, even if that means that senior gets to take PE with 9th graders for 3 semesters in a row.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So they're finding a way just to get credits, period.
Yep. Put them wherever they can. Allow them to fill whatever low level spot that they can, even if it means they can take the class twice in a row. And when teachers see it and they like, hey, he can't take this class again. He passed level 1 keyboarding or whatever it is. No, they like, he goes in there.
Well, Natasha, we're not going to keep you. I know that you've got to get out to a meeting. I want to know the top 3 things that you want to accomplish in year 1 when you're elected to the new Hanover County Board of Education. Go.
I'm already making them happen, and I'm not even elected because Faust is fired. And I can't tell you how excited I am. That gives me an opportunity to help select the new superintendent. But we still have a lot of work to do of getting rid of all DEI in our schools. DEI, SEL, CRT. I want every bit of curriculum that's associated with it, position, training. I want it gone. I'm going to eradicate it, dismantle it, and I'm going to remove it from all. I want done with all the restorative justice policies. When kids get in trouble, there should be real consequences. They need to feel it, even if it means expulsion. I know that's a big word right now, but we have a lot of in-school suspension cases that all that is glorified babysitting. Those kids need to learn a lesson and the parents need to feel it. So if you do something bad enough, you're going to get exposed. And that also includes this attendance, because our kids are being allowed to just skip whenever, just to blow by the attendance policy. Absolutely not. You miss 10 days, then you're going to fail that class. I want to bring back true merit-based grading and hiring policies and promotional policies. I guess this would fall under like an America First education, because our kids deserve better. Our country deserves better. I want to implement a U.S. constitutional literacy graduation requirement, because if we have people who are not even born in this country that know our country better, the laws better, and how government works better. Only 1/3 of Americans could actually pass the citizenship test. Our graduates at New Hanover County, they're going to be able to pass that when I get on that board. Other than that, I want to make sure our parent rights are protected. I don't want any kind of government overreach. Parents will always do what's best for their children. They know their child best. There should be no secrets. I'm so happy to say that our current school board has done the opt-in policy, but you have to put up like safeguards and guardrails and consequences when these policies are violated. And right now, there is none of that. And I want to make sure our schools are safe. And I think this will kind of fall under of taking away those restorative justice policies, because we've got kids that, like you said earlier, that have no consequences at all. And what are we teaching our kids? That you can get away with breaking the rules and causing a ruckus. That's not.
I mean, we've seen the videos of the students slapping the hell out of the teacher. That happens all the time. More often than you would think. And when you're talking about in-school suspension, I keep thinking of the Breakfast Club.
That's all it is. That is really all it is.
Yeah, we shouldn't have that. Well, thank you very much for coming on with us. Thank you for clarifying the situation with Faust in New Hanover. It is really it's really actually empowered a lot of parents over the last week, because they're thinking, hey, there are school boards that listen. There's still people out there that are going to give consequences, which, by the way, illustrates the very important thing of electing conservative school board members. We need consequences to happen. These guys are making $300,000 or so a year. They don't deserve to keep their jobs if they're letting kids get away with. One day it's going to be murder.
We're going to make sure that doesn't happen. I will encourage, and this is something I've learned as I've gotten activated. You may not be the person to run for an office, and you don't really want to get politically activated, but you need to attend these meetings. Your conservative elected officials need to see that they have your support, because sometimes it's like a shooting gallery on those dioceses. And all it takes is a friendly smile or a little text saying, I hear you, I'm with you all the way. That really gives them that push to stand up against the mob. And I'm okay with not making friends. I've got great friends. My friend list is so full, and I'm so glad that you two are part of it.
Absolutely.
But I don't need to make fake friends. I stand on my beliefs, and I'm going to fight for them. And if you don't like it, I just suggest you get out of my way.
What can we do to help? So give us 2 things in the audience. What can they do to help? Where can we find you?
Pray. First of all, just pray. Pray for all of us. That's the number one thing. And then you can visit my website, natashaforschools.com, NATOSHA, forschools.com. And then you can follow me on my social media. Donations are right now would be awesome, because we're really kicking off in campaign gear, and I've got a lot of things to buy. But any of those would be great. And I appreciate you having me on, ladies.
Well, I'm glad to see you. I just want to remind the audience that in 59 days, you can early vote in North Carolina. And if you're in New Hanover County, please make sure you do that for Natasha too.
Please do. And bring a friend. Don't let
That's
your
right. Bring 10 friends.
Fill the car up, guys. Fill the car up.
Absolutely. I can't thank you ladies enough for what you're doing to keep this conversation current and out there. And I'd love an opportunity to come back on and keep you updated as I move forward, because I'm looking forward to I think New Hanover County, I'm just going to throw it out there. I think New Hanover County could be maybe one of the few, if not the only, fully conservative school board in America.
Better not be the only one. We're going to push for more, but we're going to get you there. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
ladies. Have a great day.
Bye.
It's always good to see Natasha.
It is. And it's great to hear that your vote makes a difference. So any of you that are on the fence, remember what we told you about Bladen County, because we put on 2 more conservatives in 2022, they kept out the sexual programming from UNC Health. Moore County has gotten rid of the book. So it can happen, because I'm telling you, this is what's going on. Teachers Union promotes assignment that's saying you need to be liberated from your parents. What would it be like to be liberated from the law and your parents? Think this stuff isn't happening? It absolutely is. And you've got teachers and the NCAE that are following this garbage. This is what's happening. This is what's up. And when it comes, I
never even heard the word no contact before all this COVID stuff happened. It's kind of insane.
Well, again, they're using this as a pretext to continue on with all of this stuff. And we have to stay vigilant, and we have to vote. Now, I want to put up, you mentioned Catherine Truitt earlier.
I sure did.
There's a reason why, really, Nikki Haley Republicans came out to vote against Catherine Truitt. So it's not an extreme right, and I'm tired of hearing that garbage. This is, I put this tweet up. It's been gaining a lot of traction. What I'm about to show you is what's in the health standards for 3rd graders, okay? The EOGs, meaning the integrated test. This is how teachers will be evaluated from the state. And Catherine Truitt, her team wrote this. Summarize how to access resources for assistance with feelings, various challenges, and mental wellness for 3rd graders.
I'm sorry, but the things that we're putting on children to kind of make them capitulate to a specific narrative is really sad. And a 3rd grader, let's be honest, a 3rd grader doesn't have a good grasp on their emotions as it is. They're just really becoming self-aware and independent in the school system. I'm not talking about, as individuals, but in a system of a school, the third grade is sometimes where they'll actually rotate the rooms and put them in another class, and so this is kind of ridiculous and bizarre.
But that's the whole point, is that they're going to introduce resources outside of the family so that they're not going to the family. That means, Johnny, you don't go to your mom and dad. Go to this website, the Trevor Project, by the way, because you may not be in your right body. You might actually be a girl. Go to this website that, again, dividing from the family. So it's encouraging children, third graders, to go, 9-year-olds, to go to outside resources for help managing their feelings and their emotions. That's against parental rights. It should be against the law.
It absolutely should be. And the definition of mental. What do they mean by that? Like, it's up to them to decide, not the parent. And I have a problem with that.
Yeah, this is right here what you're looking at. Catherine Truitt and her team. Now, this is just the beginning of the iceberg. Okay. But these are the kind of things that Catherine Truitt, who is a Democrat, she is a trans Republican. She is a Democrat. Okay. She ran as a Republican. She hired just Democrats, hardened leftists. When she came into office, I knew right away what we were dealing with, and we've seen it come to fruition. Now, what really irritates me, I'm going to break it down. She's been on a podcast and a TV show about lamenting why she lost and pretty much insulting the base. What I just showed you is part and parcel of why she lost. There's no one reason.
That's absolutely why I didn't vote for her.
Yeah, it's collectively everything. You cannot be for parental rights and let something like that leave your office. That's what's in there. And that's why we have to stay vigilant. That I wouldn't want my damn third grader being referred to resources outside of the family. That's what she stands for. And we're very lucky to have her out. This is another example. LGBTQ activists speak out about against a California bill. California has put up a bill to make it a felony to purchase children for sex. And fringe groups are coming out and saying that harms gay children. What in the actual?
Well, I've heard that locally. We tried to get a felony clause passed, and that actually was something that was said here that might hurt LGBTQ members. This is just insane.
So a law making it a felony to sell children for sex, to traffic them. How is that going to hurt gay children?
Or gay people who are law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, this whole thing is a scam. But remember what we said. We're going to leave now, but you got to tune in on Thursday, because we're going to talk about the problem of illegal immigration. Margot, you're going to talk about illegals voting.
I am.
A lot of stuff going on.
Yep. And by then we'll be 56 days probably, or so, 57. So I'm going to give you the count every day, every time we do a show, because early voting happens. Y'all need to get out and get get prepared. That's very close. It's very soon. And we need you to go get your friends, neighbors, cousins, grandma, anybody, and be prepared to go vote. We'll start getting those ballots together for you and getting them out, but we just really need you to vote. Yeah,
the time is now, right, to start socializing these things I've been telling you, that we're sharing with you right now, with everyone. Don't be afraid to talk about this, because it's a matter of saving your country. It's not a matter of politics.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you. Have a great night, everyone. And we'll see you on Thursday night. Share this with 10 people. Sign up for our Substack. Do it now. Do it today.